One of the races to watch this midterm season is the rare open congressional seat in New York created by redistricting. The newly formed 10th district does not have an incumbent running. At least 6 candidates so far have declared they will run for the seat, including Congressman Mondaire Jones, who is making the jump from the 17th district, and former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, who announced his run on our show 2 weeks ago. Which brings us to Daniel Goldman. He's a former assistant U.S. attorney who served as the lead counsel for House Democrats in their first impeachment of former President Donald Trump, and a familiar face on this program and this network. Daniel, good morning. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Willie.
I understand you have something to announce.
I do, Willie. As we look around the country and the threats that are really existential in terms of our democracy, threats to right to vote, threats against the right to choose, our climate and public safety, I am running for Congress in this new 10th district because I want to get on the front lines and back in the trenches like I did during the impeachment to fight for our democracy, defend our democracy, but also bring a new voice so that we can move some of these issues forward that the Republicans in particular are really trying to roll back.
So the 10th district of New York, this new district, is Lower Manhattan, 14th Street South, river to river, as you say, and then parts of Brooklyn as well. As you've begun to talk to people, as you're exploring this run, what jumps to the top of the list in terms of issues that people are concerned with there?
Well, this is a district that I've lived in for more than 15 years. I'm raising my 5 children there who are in school there in Lower Manhattan as well as in Brooklyn Heights. And when I speak to my neighbors, my fellow school parents, the biggest issue right now, and I think this is true around New York City, is public safety. Yeah. People are very concerned about riding the subways, about crime, about gun violence, and that's the sort of non-mass murder gun violence, so to speak. And of course, the mass murder gun violence is a whole totally different animal. But we are at the precipice right now where it is easier to buy a gun than it is a cigarette or a beer. And we need to do something. And there need to be new voices with new methods and new tactics to get something done, because the old go along, get along, let's play nice in the sandbox doesn't work. And as someone who was down there in the trenches fighting against Donald Trump and the Republicans during the impeachment, I have unique experience for right now as a federal prosecutor who dealt with crime for 10 years in the Southern District of New York. I understand a lot of these issues, and I hope to bring my skills and expertise to represent the constituents of the 10th District in New York.
So right now, Republicans are expected to potentially win back the House this fall, though we should be clear, that's many months away. That could change. But right now, Democrats have White House, House, Senate. What is your answer to those who say, well, why haven't they gotten more done? They look at the list of things, the challenges this country is facing right now, whether it's inflation, whether it's resurgence of the pandemic, it comes and goes, whether it is gun violence. What is your answer to people who say, why should I give Democrats another chance at this?
Well, one of the things I would like to do is recognize that perfect can't be the enemy of the good. Some legislation in BBB and dealing with the reality of Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema as much more conservative Democrats, but they are what give the Democrats the majority. So in this day and age, in this time, you have to sort of move to their playing field while trying to elect more people so you can move some of these things forward. But I think a big issue that bothers me and has compelled me to run a little bit is that the Republicans play by a different set of rules. They operate in bad faith. They complain about inflation, yet vote against bills that will help inflation. And it's also they can gain power. And to the degree that Democrats try to meet Republicans where Republicans are, we're going to fail. So we need new ways of going about it, using leverage in different ways, recognizing that, having lunch in the Congress cafeteria is not going to get a deal done, that we need to go around the usual ways and try to turn the screws on Republicans to force them to the table.
Dan, as you know, because you live it, in New York City as well as other major cities, we are awash in guns. There's a notion of weaponry out there. And you can buy a gun or rent a gun. If you're a young gangbanger in a gang, you can rent a gun for a job, for a night. Why is there not more of an alliance between Democrats running for office and the police in their cities? Republicans seem to have co-opted the police vote. But any cop would know that anyone who wants to get guns off the street or prevent 18-year-olds from buying assault weapons, any cop would say, I like that person. Why is there not more of a political alliance between Democrats and cops?
I think it's starting to happen because what we are seeing now is that the Republicans are starting to become the anti-law enforcement party, and Democrats are recognizing the value of law enforcement. I worked very closely with all sorts of law enforcement for 10 years, fighting gun violence, gun trafficking, violent gangs, mafia, mob bosses, organized crime, you name it, white-collar crime. But I do bring some of these good relationships with the law enforcement that I think it's critical, especially in New York City, to have a holistic view to reduce crime. You need to all work together in the same way. And I think what we will start to see is Democrats like me who have experience in law enforcement but also understand the problems with our criminal justice system, all working together. You look at Texas. Texas passed a law over the objection of every single law enforcement body in Texas. The Democrats were against it. The Republicans passed an even more lenient gun law, and law enforcement was against it. At some point, that alliance is going to crack. We saw it on January 6th, where people were hitting people with Blue Lives Matter, hitting police officers with Blue Lives Matter flags. The Republican Party is not the party of law and order, and as Democrats, we need to embrace law and order in a compassionate, empathetic way.
And New York City Mayor Eric Adams was sitting in that chair just yesterday echoing what you said. Public safety is the #1 issue in this city right now. Daniel Goldman, now officially a candidate for New York's newly formed 10th district. Congratulations. Welcome to the race, and thanks for being here, Dan.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Good luck.
Good to see you.